How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. Saturday mornings, Jim Valley, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 Eastern. Sundays with Andrew Zarian. And we got a lot to talk about here today. It's Tuesday on the show. No show yesterday. Yesterday was MLK Day. And as a result, we do not have Observer Live or the Filthy Tom Show. But we will remedy that today, as we will be joined on this program by both Filthy Tom Lawlor and Mike Sempervive. And we have a lot to talk about. It was a very, very busy weekend. Tom wrestled for New Japan, Battle in the Valley, which was an awesome show. We had SmackDown, which we normally cover on the Monday Filthy Show. We had Collision and Battle of the Belts. Yesterday was Raw. We've got about a week and a half until the Royal Rumble. Now this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday. And, of course, we've got NXT coming up tonight and Dynamite tomorrow. And a lot of news as well. We'll get into it after the break. Among the stories, Seth Rollins suffered some sort of knee injury on Raw last night in the match where he did not, in fact, beat Jinder Mahal. Jinder was hindered. So we'll tell you about that, as well as Hulk Hogan assisting a overturned vehicle, which somehow made TMZ. Wait till you hear this story. New Japan, King of Pro Wrestling. There's a Ring Fit Rules match coming up, which I bet you anything Tom would have loved to have been in that match. And we got plenty of other news as well. If you want to text us, 425-780-7566. That is 425-780-7566. You can email me at F4WOnline at gmail.com, as well as F4WOnline on Threads, Instagram, and Cameo at Bryan Alvarez on the X. Back in a moment, Observer Live.
What was your reaction to that? Because that's something where I was like, this is crazy that this is happening right now.
I'd love to call that a behind-the-scenes moment, but it wasn't. It was right there, wide out in the open. But that is one of my favorite off-the-wall things to happen in wrestling during my entire career, mostly because of who that lady is. Lisa is her name, and she is an absolute badass. I mean, there are a lot of big burly men that are security guards and protect the wrestlers over there at WWE, but I think every single one of them would agree that Lisa was absolutely the toughest. I mean, she wasn't the biggest by any means, but man, she was not afraid to just dive into something. And hearing her tell that story afterwards about knowing that's Rob Gronkowski and he's 8 times her size, but having no hesitation, regardless of who it was, to put her health out of the way and dive in there to protect us, just mauling Gronk right from the get-go. Oh, my goodness. What a think about that for a second. Think about who Rob is and what he's capable of and physically what he can do. And this small lady just diving in there and jacking him up. That was the funniest thing in my head the whole time. I was like, I can't wait to just destroy Rob later for this, about how she jacked him up. But we let her know that it was kind of, I mean, bringing Rob in was kind of a last minute thing. I had heard that I was going to be going over in the Andre, and I was super thrilled about that. I think they had kind of built that storyline to that over a course of maybe like a month leading in. And we're trying to think of ways to punch it up. And we had this idea to bring Rob in. Rob always wanted to do something with me over at WWE, and this was just the perfect time. So it just made sense. But it was just kind of thrown together last minute, which is crazy for these outside athletes and celebrities. They're not used to just this entire thing, this global spectacle being dumped on their lap with like a half an hour heads up or day of kind of thing. And yeah, we put it together that day, and it was so last second. No one told security. No one told anyone else that was associated with the show. And yeah, then that's what happens.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive and Filthy Tom Lawlor joining us here today. And we got a lot to get into. And we're going to kick it off with Battle in the Valley, Tom. You were there. And how did it go this weekend? You had a match and you did commentary.
It was a fantastic event. From top to bottom, I thought the entire show, I saw virtually the entire pay-per-view portion of the show, and I thought it delivered maybe more so than people even expected. For myself, not the best weekend when it came to in-ring action.
Sounds like a normal weekend.
No, actually much worse, because after the matchup, the opening match of the pay-per-view where Team Filthy unfortunately once again lost, this time to Fred Rosser, Jacob Fatu, and Shota Umino. The West Coast Wrecking Crew walked out on me.
How about that?
In the post-fight comments.
How about that?
Yeah, and hopefully I can work things out with them. I love those guys. And oddly enough, in the aftermath of that, one Fred Rosser came by and, to add insult to injury, offered his hand to have my back if no one else will. So I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know either, Tom, but you know what? I always had your back. I never walked out on you. Not one time. And you never inducted me into Team Filthy.
You literally walked out on me the last match that we had.
I mean, I literally did, but that's because you cost us the match.
Yes.
But still, I mean, I've always been there for you. Where's my Team Filthy induction and shirt? Kind of a little disgusted, to be honest with you. You know, well, anyway.
Would you like to talk about the rest of the show, Brian? Because you had a great vantage point. You know, sometimes when you're in it, when you're living it, your viewpoint's a little bit different. So I joined the commentary booth, and like I said, I thought it was some of the best. It was the best show of the year. It was the best wrestling show of 2023.
I mean, so far it is, yeah. And it may end up being the best show of the year because on the main show, I mean, there was nothing even approaching a bad match. Apparently the pre-show matches, Dave wasn't he wasn't over the moon with. What was the women's match on that on the pre-show?
Viva Van and Stephanie
Yeah,
Vacker.
He didn't give that a very good review, but I didn't see that. I only saw the main show, and it was great. It was great. And you did, Tom, on commentary. I mean, you mentioned you and Fred Rosser teaming up. Talk about all the things you say that I did to you. Look at all the things this guy did to you. And you want to team up with this guy? Huh, interesting. Guess we'll see.
What kind of supportive partner are you right now, Brian? Why don't you say that, you know what, I think Fred Rosser is going to be all bad for you, and I'm going to come out of retirement one more time.
I'm done.
And start our revenge after we go through the New Japan Strong Tag Team title situation. We take those, and then we go back, and we fight those damn Bang Bros again.
Well, first off, they're not the Bang Bros anymore. We beat them so bad they had to change their name.
Davey, how about that, all right?
Yeah, that's too bad. But anyway, Tom.
Maybe they could be Extreme Associates 2023.
How did you enjoy commentary?
I love doing commentary.
Yeah.
It was the first time working with either Veda or Walker Stewart, and I had a very good time out there. So hopefully it's something I get to continue to do. It was kind of put upon me somewhat last second, and I wish I had a little bit more time to
How last
prepare.
second are we talking? Like the middle of the show? They said, you know what, Tom, why don't you go out there?
No.
Okay.
But as always, I wish I would have had more time to prepare, but I didn't need it because Veda and Walker were well prepared to have any stats or any noteworthy items ready to go.
Were you furiously texting Chris Samsa to help you out and feed you some info?
I was messaging.
This guy's an expert.
CompuBox.
I mean, come on.
Yeah,
Chris Charlton should be getting a hold of Filthy to get tips on his commentary.
Oh, yeah?
But this person here says, I hope Tom knows
mind.
many of us are raving about his commentary performance. So, yeah. I think what the chat is saying is you should stop wrestling and just do commentary. Is that an option?
I feel like
How's the pay?
I feel like I was given a hint when I got the text message
Yeah.
about asking if I wanted to do commentary.
Like, you can't really move much anymore, but you can talk. So how does that pay?
God, man.
Hey, listen, don't think I haven't thought about doing commentary or refereeing or some easy job.
I have.
Wrestling's
you know what?
hard.
I've been thinking lately, because I keep losing weight. I've been thinking I would probably make a great referee because I'm credible, right?
Troubleshooting.
It seems like a great job, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
It seems like a great job.
I'm not opposed to it.
Like,
I could join the ranks of all shooters like Marty Asami in the reffing ranks.
Yeah.
oh, here they come. I'd rather
Jeremy
see you
Marcus,
on commentary.
another shooter.
Oh man, yeah, they all would rather see you do commentary, Tom. Hey, for longevity, you could do that till you're 100. Can't really wrestle.
Well, I'm
that
already
long.
moving like I am, so
I didn't want to bring
as long
it
as
up,
I'm not talking like I am.
except I did. Well, that's good, Tom. That's good. So, yeah, overall, it was an excellent show. And for those of you that didn't see it, it's already up on New Japan World. I spent $20 and it was on New Japan World the next day. But that was all right. I can support a show that great.
Blame Triller.
But you and Jarrell and Royce
It was still
Isaacs.
half the price of the TNA pay-per-view. That was a surprise to see that at $39.99.
Jarrell, by the way, Buddy Wayne guy. Just want to throw that out there. Fred Rosser, Shota Umino, and Jacob Fatu. And you guys lost, but it was a very good match.
Which means Jarrell trained a long time ago, apparently. Is that what that means? What does that mean?
It means that,
Birds of a feather. Quick to walk away from Filthy Tom.
No, we were taught
Flying away.
when the going gets tough,
Get going.
Yeah, basically. Hey, listen, here to make some money and get some longevity here, not get killed. And then afterwards, old Jack Perry debuted with a big old beard.
And an armband.
He's another one of those guys with that winter beard. And he ripped up an AEW contract. He tore it up. And then he had an armband that read Scapegoat. So it sounds like he's going to be a New Japan regular for a while here, which is great. At least he's doing something. He dropped off the face of the planet for months. Now he'll be facing old Shota Umino coming up on this Windy City show. Are you on that show, Tom?
I'm not quite sure where my place in the world is at this point yet, Brian. You'll have to watch the cards.
So you could be doing commentary on that show?
I would not be opposed to that.
One more text about doing commentary, and it's definitely a message, Tom. I'd have to say. Maybe two more. You do it once, everything's good.
I would like to say I'm surprised Jack Perry decided to show up here in New Japan rather than in All Japan now that Simon Inoki's back. He definitely would have gotten a big push right to the top as a noted shooter.
That's right, yeah.
Blow all of that up, please.
Or maybe
God.
Big Japan since he's a deathmatch guy.
There you go. DDT.
Rocky and Soberano Jr. beat Masquerade Rod and Volador Jr. This was also a very good match. Running Destroyer finish. Volador pin Rocky. Very good. David Finlay and TJP. Really good match. TJP looked great in this match. I'm talking like he was great.
They're positioning him to be the leader of United Empire, it seems.
Well, he may as well because he was the standout here. And he lost.
Do you want him to retire, Brian? Or do you want him to stay in the ring? He's been around a long
Talk
time.
about TJP?
Now. Yeah.
Guy's in his mid-30s.
How long has he been wrestling for? He was
I don't
part
know,
of
but
the
he's like
original
35.
Inoki Dojo.
I think when he was like 15 or 14.
He had to have been when he was, what was it, Puma Boy or whatever it was?
This guy's got a lot of years left. Tom passed 40, and once that happens, it just gets rough. Clark Connors and Coughlin versus Phantasmo and Hikuleo for the strong openweight titles. Very good. ELP, big splash off the shoulders of Hikuleo, so they retained the titles. Very good match here. Only the strong openweight titles on the line, so they're just double champions. They have not unified the titles. And this is where Tom was talking about wanting those strong openweight tag titles. You're going to need to get a team or something. Because your current team, man.
I'd take the never six-man titles. Give me something.
Do they have like a commentary championship?
Is it Referee of the Year?
Something like that? Back in a moment. Observer Live.
Walker.
Was there ever a plan or ever any, concrete, real plan to have Gronk wrestle a match in WWE?
Yeah, actually. What year was it? It was the year we had the COVID WrestleMania that was in the Performance Center.
36.
Yeah, so that one, Rob was going to come in and we were going to work towards a tag match, actually. And we were going to do this tag match in Boston where he had just, finished playing for the Patriots because SummerSlam was there. And we were kind of talking about who our opponents might be, but we were going to do this match. And, I think it was going to end with some fireworks and me turning on him, setting up a one-on-one match in Saudi, actually. And we had like this really cool storyline in place. And Rob was all in on it. He was ready to go. He was going to make this his full-time thing, which I always thought was awesome because I know how much money that would have cost him giving up other opportunities. I know what he would have made here, and I know what he makes on the outside, and he would have lost a ton of money to do this, but he was so jacked up about it. And, we were sitting there. I want to say it might have been like the week before. Anyways, his phone started blowing up with his agent calling and Tom Brady calling, and we're at, I think it was SmackDown at the time, and Tom told him that he was going back to football, that he was going to the Bucks, and he should consider coming out of retirement. And I think Rob had like $10 million on his contract for that year if he went back and, starting over fresh, fully healed. It was kind of a no-brainer for him. Of course, they went on to win the Super Bowl that year, so he absolutely made the right decision. But had to that Tom Brady not ruined it, we would have had a real cool storyline for maybe that year.
Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, Filthy Tom. We had Julian Trish Adora for the IWGP Women's title. Really good match. I was very impressed with this match. I've seen Trish Adora, and she's got like a ton of potential, but she's still kind of green. But man, they had a great match here. Great heat. And Julie, of course, won. Northern Lights Bomb. Thought it was very good. We had Zack Sabre Jr. and Bad Dude Tito against Matt Riddle and Jeff Cobb. And Riddle hit the bro Derek on Tito, got the pin. I was wondering if he'd do a tombstone because he's not in WWE anymore. And he kind of did a half. Like it sort of was a tombstone, but then he couldn't help but do it the WWE way. And not the pre-WWE Matt Riddle, but he looked fine. Everybody else looked really good. And good match.
Hey, Tom, you got a relationship with Matt Riddle like Brock Lesnar does?
I love this news that Brock Lesnar is apparently on his way back for Royal Rumble season.
Yeah.
The
Season, baby.
only return that could make me any happier would be Shane McMahon around these times.
I don't know if I'd bank on that one.
I, for one, am hoping old Bork Laser shows up and ain't doing business with nobody.
Well, we had Gabe Kidd, Eddie Kingston for the Triple Crown title. This was a great brawl. And the finish was lame, but they're setting up another match. They were outside brawling. Eddie's about to get back in the ring, and Gabe Kidd grabbed a mic, and I can't say everything he said, but he called him fat, and Eddie could take no more, and he went after him, and they both got counted out. And then Eddie immediately went for a table, so they will all cheer, because, of course, the table's the most over thing in wrestling in 2024. And everyone came out to break it up, and they will be rematching as Kid grabbed the belts and started throwing them around afterwards, and they beat up poor Eddie and left him lying. So I presume that's Windy City with a stipulation. Moxley and Shingo in a no DQ match.
I just want to say, I hope Gabe Kidd has got a very long and very fruitful New Japan Pro Wrestling career, because I don't believe that with his style and his interviews, he's ever going to be allowed for too long on television. That I know a lot of it is completely incomprehensible, but his promo style is it's almost New Jack level. It's crazy.
Well, speaking of New Jack, we had Moxley Shingo no DQ with every weapon under the sun. And what do you expect? It was John Moxley and Shingo doing anything under the sun, and it was awesome. And there was so much heat for this match at the end as they're doing all their big moves, and this is awesome, and fight forever chants. And finally, Moxley hit a lariat, Death Rider through a chair, pinned him. Fantastic match. And then Moxley called out Naito for the Windy City show, which apparently will be for the IWGP Heavyweight title.
So, well, if Naito retains until then, Brian.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Much like Mustafa Ali challenged Hiromu
Yes, he
for
did.
the IWGP Junior title, which will be if Hiromu retains until then.
And the main event was another awesome match, Okada-Ospreay. This was they worked like they were in the Tokyo Dome here in San Jose in front of 2,800 people or whatever, and it was great. And, of course, Okada won with the Rainmaker, and then the War Dogs came out, and they attacked Ospreay, and they're going to be having a cage match coming up here in New Japan, February 11th, and I can't repeat Ospreay's promo here, but he's a sick little fella, and he's going to take them out with all sorts of craziness. And, yeah, this show ruled. I don't know what to tell you. If you got New Japan Strong and you haven't watched it, well, stop what you're doing around 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern, and watch the show, because it's great.
And if you happen to be listening to us in Japan, demand, if there's not an option there, demand that New Japan World puts up an English feed of the show so you can listen to Filthy Tom Lawlor.
It's only the Japanese feed on Strong, or on New Japan World. Is that right?
Shameful.
Yeah.
Shameful.
That doesn't bode well for you, Tom.
Brian, send a text.
Right now?
Yes.
Let me get on it. Hey, speaking of things, there's a show coming up after this show. Can I continue here?
Good.
We're live, pal! It starts at 1 Pacific, 4 Eastern. It is the 100th episode of We're Live, pal. And there's going to be a special Q&A show, and I will be on it! So if you want to ask me some questions, it's going to be a fun time. We're live, pal. Just stick around here if you're watching on YouTube or Twitch. The show starts at 1, and I'll be on there. I got to make a grand entrance a little bit later on, but I'll be there. And then we'll answer questions till 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern. So check it out here today, the 100th episode of We're Live, pal, coming up immediately following this show. And I'll be there with a live Q&A. So I expect you both to tune in, take notes, okay? Then you can do a wrap-up show afterwards. Got it? Anyway, Tom, what'd you think of SmackDown? Any notes?
I'm trying to think back to remember if I watched it at all now.
That's great.
It's been a busy weekend. Travel day.
Yeah, it has been. I definitely did watch it.
Well, we don't have the ratings, but apparently it did another giant number because old Roman was on the show. And got that Royal Rumble coming up, that 4-way. Who's walking out with a title?
Roman Reigns.
Okay, just checking. If you'd answered that wrong, I'd had to send another text about how you're not fit for commentary.
Roman Reigns was not on the show Friday.
He didn't make an appearance?
So I'm not sure which one you watched.
Well, that's why I'm not doing
he was not on the show. They mentioned that in the very opening
Oh, that's right. They
segment.
announced him for a match, but he wasn't there. I remember what show I watched now.
Nick Aldis announced it for a match,
He was on the
knowing he
previous
wasn't
week.
there to set up
That's right.
a handicap match with Randy Orton, AJ Styles, and LA Knight taking on the Bloodline. And then
Details.
a storyline throughout the entire show
Yeah.
was that Paul Heyman was interviewing prospective members of the Bloodline for that night. No one would take the bait. Pretty Deadly tried, kind of, but didn't realize that there was only one of them that could do the bidding, and it became a 3-on-2 handicap match.
But then they laid
the
out
main
Orton,
event.
so it was 2-on-2. But then he made his big return and laid out everybody got the win. The two notable things on the show, just to cut to the chase, is they did a segment with Butch and Tyler Bate where Tyler Bate wants a team with Butch. Butch doesn't want to. Tyler said we could revive this whole British strong style thing. And he says, you need to look inward, ask yourself, what is that name going to be? So it looks like they're going to drop this whole Butch thing, and he's going to go back to the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne.
Butch.
I thought that was a cool segment.
Yeah, so that'd be a huge improvement.
Was it better than Caden and Katana at the party? Because that's what it kind of is. We're moving towards probably more things like this that look like that.
Well, then we had...
Mike, let me ask you a
Yes.
question, a real
Yes.
question. When you are off air, how much time do you spend thinking about Caden and Katana?
That is a
Not
good
much.
question.
Why? I mean, I'm just why? Because
Because they're your Miz. That's why.
They're not my
Yes,
Miz.
they are. Every single time you have to bury Kane and Katana, even when they're not even on SmackDown.
That's true. They are my Miz.
Okay,
That is-
exactly. That's what I
I'll cop
thought.
to that. I'll cop to that.
Bianca beat Bailey when Damage Control wanted nothing to do with helping Bailey. They're leaving her hung out to dry, so her time's coming. And then the only other thing of note is they had a Carmelo Austin Theory match. And Austin Theory has this move, which is like an Arabian press, where you jump up on the ropes and your legs hit the ropes and it bounces you backwards. And he does that into a Spanish fly. And he goes to do the move on Carmelo, but he jumps too far. And he sits on the rope, which if you sit on the rope, it's not going to spring you backwards into a flip. So he just goes like a quarter of the way over. And first he kind of lands on his head, and then Carmelo comes down and bam, reverse headbutts this guy right in the face. And, I mean, the referee didn't even ask. He's like, it's done. And he waves this thing off. And, WWE, I think on their Twitter, they said that both guys were all right, but they were not all right. Theory, concussion protocol, I believe. Medical protocol was the exact term. And Carmelo may or may not be on tonight's NXT show. So I guess we'll probably know sooner rather than later. But Austin Theory by far took the worst of it. I mean, Carmelo, you can see on the landing, he knows something went wrong and he's immediately looking to see if the guy's okay. And Theory's he's laying there half dead. So he might be out a while. We have Cora Jade injured, probably a torn ACL. So she is out of the Women's Battle Royal tonight. Jakara Jackson has been cleared, so she'll be probably replacing Cora Jade in that match. And then last night on Raw, Seth Rollins did a lion salt, banged his knee on the mat, and limped his way through the rest of the match, limped his way backstage, and he'll be undergoing an MRI, and hopefully it's not a serious injury, or his whole road to WrestleMania will be out the window.
Yeah.
As someone who's had a serious knee injury and competed on it in a fight, I can't imagine that Seth has a torn ACL or anything that's, he was jumping off the ropes. He was able to land moves. I don't know if he'd
hold
be
that
able to
thought. We
bend
got the
that
music
leg.
here. Hold that thought. Back in a moment, Observer Live.
That whole series was absolutely ridiculous. So, like I just said, I now know that Rob's going back to football. He is keeping it under wraps, so I couldn't say anything about it, right? So we're trying to figure out how to do this spot. Rob might have, I can't remember exactly, but he might have told Vince or somebody that, he was going to go back just so they could prepare internally in the company. Anyways, I remember Matt Bloom came up to me, and he had just gotten that. Matt Bloom, the head coach of NXT, who was always a really good friend to me, kind of like a big brother, actually, in addition to being a coach. But he came up to me after the production meeting, and he's like, said something along the lines of, "Oh, Rob's jumping off the top tonight." I was like, "What do you mean?" And he tells me the idea for the spot, and I was like, "No, he's not. Absolutely no, he's not. Are you kidding me? This guy hasn't been trained. He hasn't spent a second inside a ring. You're going to have him jump off the ceiling? Absolutely not." He's like, "Mojo, it's all good. We went out and we got all the 7-footers from NXT. We got every tall person on this entire roster, and he's going to have 30 people catching him. He's going to be fine." And I was like, what if he gets excited and overjumps him? What if someone drops him on his head and he breaks his neck and he misses, out on, like, that's going to be on me. Like, I was like, absolutely not. This is not going to happen. Like, I didn't even know how high the jump was going to be at first. I was just like, Rob's not going to know what to say. He doesn't know how crazy it is here. I have to stand up for my friends. So I'm like talking with Bloom, and I was just like really uneasy about it. They talked to Rob, and Rob's trying to figure it out. We're going through it, and then Vince just pops out of nowhere, and he's like, "Oh, it's super simple, He's like, "Watch this," and he literally pulls out his money clip, which, by the way, was fat. He had a lot of cash on him. Hands it to me, gives me his phone. He's like, "Rob, it's just like this." And he takes the stairs up. There's a crash pad on the ground, steps over the rail with absolutely zero hesitation, just jumps to the floor and takes the back bump on the crash pad. Like, when you think about it, that bump is 1,000 times worse than what Rob ended up having to take, because with those 7-footers, by the time they fully extended their arms up, Rob's only fallen like 6 inches, if that. And then he's got 20 people to catch him. Could not have been an easier stunt in the end. But falling all that way onto a crash pad, I mean, yeah, it's a cushion, but you're still falling with a lot of height, and it's not that much give. And it's not like, Vince is 20 years old or something. Gets back up like it was nothing. It's like, "See, it's easy." And I literally looked over at Rob, and I was like, "Well, now you have to do it."
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, Filthy Tom. So, what's the story here you were talking about, Tom?
Well, I don't have a prognosis or a diagnosis necessarily for Seth Rollins. I don't know what happened, but based on what I saw, it didn't look like it was a twisting injury of sorts, which is where you would probably cause the most damage to ligaments. It looks like if he slammed his knee on the mat, maybe some damage to the patella, hopefully something along those lines. If it was a bunch of torn ligaments, I don't know if he'd be able to finish the match like he did. He was still able to lift up Jinder. He was able to slam him around. He was able to take bumps. He was able to leap off the top rope. So hopefully, it's not too bad.
I will say one thing. Yes, he did do all the lifting and everything like that. But if you watch the frog splash he didn't even touch the bad leg. Like he landed sideways to not hit his other knee. And when he went for the curb stomp, I mean, he sort of jumped, but he didn't put his weight on the other leg when he landed. He did a falling curb stomp where he put the foot on the guy's head and then just fell on his butt because he didn't want to put weight on it. So, I mean, it was bugging him, but hopefully, not a serious injury. Although any knee injury is no good. At least I've heard. Didn't Frank Shamrock have, no ligaments in his knees at all? Isn't that what they said?
That always amazes me when I would hear things like that, or people running around with no ACL. Like, I twisted my kneecap all the way around and, tore all of the cartilage, and I can't. That was painful. I cannot imagine just constantly with nothing there, just the constant pain that you have to be in and fight through, especially to be at those types of levels. That's incredible to me.
Well, especially in a sport where you're running and jumping, it becomes a lot more important to have those ACLs. Someone like Frank Shamrock, if you remember towards the tail end of his career, he was just getting taken down left and right and then getting submissions off his back, fighting up from the bottom. So he may not have had any ligaments in his knees towards the end there.
Well, for the Raw show, it opened up with a Cody promo, and he gets interrupted by Drew. And they had a long back-and-forth talking segment, which basically is they both want to finish their story at WrestleMania. And Drew says, I'm going to do it first. That WrestleMania belongs to me. And then Cody noted, you keep talking about this match we had together before we both came back to WWE, the last match we had before I came back, or you came back. Who won that match? And, of course, that was Cody. And then later they announced in the show, Cody is going to have a face-to-face with CM Punk next week. That'll be something, let me tell you. We had Priest meeting with Truth. Truth has been selling bootleg shirts. And apparently everybody that buys these shirts, they pay in cash with crisp $100 bills. So he's got a giant wad of 100s, and he gives a wad of it to Priest, and he says, that's your cut. And Priest is like, all right, you can keep selling shirts, but keep it quiet. And tonight, in this tag match, don't even tag in, because it was going to be Miz and Truth against JD and Dirty Dom, which was next, and ends up with Truth actually starting the match, so he didn't tag in. And they're going back and forth, and he feels bad that he's beating these guys up, but they don't feel bad about beating him up. And then we had my favorite long-running gag on this show just to make me furious, and that is spending 8 minutes to build up a hot tag with 2 teases and then doing the hot tag during the break. Not even picture-in-picture. I wasn't even watching the commercial, but they did the hot tag during the break, and then it was a good match. We ended with JD going for a cradle, Ciampa kicked out, DDT of an exploder attempt, meet in the middle, 1, 2, 3, and good match. Atrocious production. Chelsea wants a rematch. Pierce is like, you had a rematch, you lost. So he signed them to a match with Indy and Candice for later. And then we had another one. Indy and Candice versus Chelsea and Piper.
Ugh.
Your favorite performers, Mike, Katana and Caden, are backstage watching, okay? They cut to the back to show them watching exactly when the babyfaces make the hot tag. I was like, that's 2 in a row. Can we do it again? So we missed the hot tag for the second straight match. And then Indy and Candice hit a double moonsault. Indy covers, but she's not legal. The referee starts to count 1. Candice shoves Indy out of the way, so she's the proper person covering. 2, the ref's still counting. 3. Now, they had done a storyline that the ref was incompetent, but the key to this, guys, is the ref actually wasn't incompetent last week. Chelsea's complaint was that he counted too slow, which he didn't. So I don't think this was storyline. I think this was incompetence.
Yeah.
So
if this is storyline, this is one of the smartest ways to do this that I've ever seen.
Kevin Dunn gets ousted. Everybody celebrates. And then we get this Raw with like one faux pas after another.
And we are one step closer to Caden and Katana against Candice and Indy Hartwell.
That does sound horrible.
God
but
bless.
We'll see. We'll see. Rhea told Judgment Day she had to go address the division. And then the rest of the guys had an argument over Truth. And Finn gets presented with his cut, and now he likes Truth. And JD goes, well, do I get a cut? And Priest says, your name's not on the shirt. Probably not. Said, let's focus on our match. Gunther made his return and got a big pop. He vows to go win the Rumble main event Mania. He puts over Ludwig, and then who he calls Ludwig. And then out comes Xavier Woods. It's one of those things. It's like the pronunciation of Okada's name. It's like, everybody in America, well, the proper way to pronounce it is Ludwig. And then you got the actual guy that speaks, German, and he's like, Ludwig. Ludwig, I'm proud of you, Ludwig. And so Xavier Woods comes out, and he says, you and I got a problem. You beat up Kofi. You stomped his head into the steps. Well, I got to take care of you. So it's Woods and Kaiser, and they brawl outside. Kaiser tries to hit him with a chair, misses. So Woods hits him with a chair, gets DQ'd. And then Woods gets a chair. Kaiser boots into his face. This crowd chants, we want tables! Because everybody wants these stupid tables for some reason. And Woods tries to dropkick his head into the steps, but Kaiser escapes. This feud must continue.
Can I ask you both a question here?
Quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, Vinci. If I'm Vinci, am I nervous because they keep wanting to make Kaiser something a little more special? He's got his own shirt, European elegance, all that sort of stuff, and they really have not done anything with Vinci outside of a cool entrance they gave him for a minute in NXT. I mean, is this just a matter of time here?
I don't know. He looked great last week. They gave him a big push last week. And
I'm more concerned with why Xavier Woods was dressed like Animal from the Muppets.
Well,
What?
He plays the drums.
He's got some nose piercings now, too. He looked insane.
one thing that I like that's continued with Vince gone into the Triple H era?
It's a Muppet show?
That poor Byron Saxon's gimmick is he's an absolute moron. So this poor guy comes out, and he has to ask Woods, why were you so angry tonight? And Woods is like, why do you think I'm so angry? He stomped Kofi's head into his head. And then Ludwig attacks him, and they have a brawl. And Ludwig backs down. I guess guys start yelling at me about how I pronounce it now? Huh? Why don't you yell at old Gunther? Oh, you going to call it Gunter? Well, he probably calls himself Gunther. Did he ever face Kazuchika Okada, or am I imagining things? Then we had Ivar versus Akira Tozawa. This match was up my alley. Man, what a match. Ivar just kills this guy, but then Tozawa makes a comeback. Maxine distracts Ivar. Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
He wasn't the only one distracted.
I knew it was coming. I was waiting. And then Tozawa hits a big kick. Sunset flip powerbomb gets the pin. Valhalla beats up Maxine. Ivar kills Tozawa. Next week, we have Ivy Nile versus Valhalla, which should be pretty good. And Chad Gable versus Ivar. That sounds awesome. Awesome.
Maxine against Valhalla ought to be something one day.
We had a Rhea promo interrupted by Becky. And I haven't figured out exactly where they're going, but the match is Rhea and Becky at WrestleMania. I mean, they teased it here. The announcers talked about how we all want to see it. What's her name? Jackie Redmond or whatever. She talked about how we all want to see that match. So whatever they do, I don't know if it means Becky's winning the Rumble or maybe, they could actually do it'd be horrible, but Nia and Becky tying, and then they have to do a match at Elimination Chamber, and Becky wins and goes on to Mania.
You don't think Bayley's winning?
I don't know.
Nah.
I don't think so.
That's my hope.
We had Finn and Priest versus Miz and Truth, which was all comedy. Priest reluctantly gives Truth South of Heaven. Finn covers him for the pin. And Priest likes his Truth. Everyone else could take him or leave him. Then we had Jinder. This was amazing. So he's the modern-day Maharaja. He's meditating. And he's giving a very, very thoughtful promo about how I am the most talked-about star of 2024. Everybody is divided, but my focus is singular. Tonight, everyone will be unified when I beat Seth freaking Rollins for the world title. I was like, this guy meditating can't even not say freaking. Like, he can't just call the guy Seth Rollins. Nope. And then they go, this match, moments away. Well, moments away was a Shayna Zoe entrance, a commercial break, a Shinsuke Nakamura promo talking about the Rumble, a Natty Tegan entrance, a Natty and Tegan versus Zoe and Shayna match, which Shayna won by putting Natty in the Bulldog choke for the submission. And then, 15, 20 minutes later, after they said it's imminent, well, we finally got Jinder and Seth Rollins. And granted, Seth hurt his knee, but this wasn't much of a match. It was just sort of there. And Seth, there was one great near fall where, first we had another one. So Drew and Priest start brawling at ringside. And all of a sudden the announcers scream, "My God, what a cheap shot!" And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? We don't see it. They didn't show us. And there's a kick out. And then
into Sheer, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was
right?
Veer. Veer did something, but like I rewound it. You can't even see it in the background. Like you can't see what happened at all.
Hit him with a fastball.
They don't tell you. It may have. And then Veer finally gets a briefcase behind the ref's back, hits Seth. Jinder hits the Kalash. But Seth kicks out.
Not like this.
It was a good near fall. And then Mahal tries it again. Seth avoids it, hits a stomp on one leg, gets the pin. And I wrote match was good. I mean, it was fine.
It's all right.
I've seen bad matches, guys. Like, I don't think some of you realize the bad matches I've seen in my life. This match was fine.
But the question is it going to be better than Samoa Joe and Hook?
No, Samoa Joe and Hook's going to be good. I just have this feeling. It's going to be good. And that is coming up tomorrow, or on whatever day that is, Wednesday, which is tomorrow.
Yeah.
But tonight, we've got the NXT Women's Championship #1 Contenders Battle Royal. Lyra and Tatum Paxley against Lola Vice and Elektra Lopez. Carmelo and Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Filthy and Mike here. The January 7th Dynamite, 17th. Samoa Joe versus Hook. This Michael Booble here thinks Hook's winning.
What?
Someone has to.
I'd like to place a bet on that, if he'd be willing to
Okay,
take one.
how much? I'll facilitate it.
Wait, he's going to win, as in win the World Heavyweight Championship?
This guy says he's going to tap out Joe.
Tap out Joe? Not only win the world title, but tap him out?
How much?
How much you want? I'll borrow some. I'm going to need to. That's all right.
All right, Michael Booble, you tell us how much.
Come on.
You going
in
to Tony D?
under 5 minutes?
Yeah.
At least $100.
This guy's trying to get 10,000 in there, but that's not Michael Booble. That's a different guy.
Big Booble, what do you got?
Hey, by the way, don't forget, we're live, pal! Starts in moments, and I'll be on here in a bit with a live Q&A. So immediately following this program on Twitch and YouTube. So make sure you check that out, Garrett and Andrew. It's the 100th episode of We're Live, Pal. And it will be live, pal, starting now. So stick around. I'm going to go eat something so I'm in a good mood. And then away we go. So that sound good? Check it out.
Yeah.
And that's it. We're going to wrap it up. It's going to be a fun live Q&A, everybody. So join us for that. And thanks, Mike. Thanks, Filthy. Excellent job on commentary today. You're made for this job. And we're going to wrap it up. We'll talk to you next time. Wrestling Observer Live.